and body language pro Lisa Mitchell, founder of Power Body Language. On October 7th, we had the first and only vice presidential debate between Vice President Mike Pence and Vice President candidate Kamala Harris. And just like any political analysis that I do and any debate that I watch, I'm always riveted, not so much by what the candidates are saying, but what the candidates' faces and bodies are telling us. And this debate was no exception. To say that there were some loud faces involved in this debate is an understatement. Both candidates, coming from very different points of views and also possessing very different personalities, had a lot of emotion, a lot of expressions, a lot of agreements or disagreements showing up on their faces and in their body language. So I wanted to take a moment and unpack a couple of key things that I noticed in this vice presidential debate. First of all, let's focus on the faces. Each candidate kind of has their go-to facial expression when they are either not appreciating what the other candidate is saying or replying with, or when they don't believe what the other candidate is saying or expressing at that moment. And so when you look at Vice President Pence, a lot of the activation that you see shows up as a one-sided mouth raise. So his default position, usually when he's in disagreement with something, is kind of his lips in a tight line with one corner of his mouth pulled slightly up. Now that is traditionally a contempt expression, and contempt is a very strong negative emotion. So think disdain, strong disagreement, strong dislike. It's what shows up on your face when you're really not feeling what the other person that is talking is putting down. Now, Kamala Harris, on the other hand, her default expression is more of an uplifted, almost fake smile. So she was more apt, closed mouth, lifted cheeks, kind of a fake smile was her default. When we look at the eyes, Vice President Pence's move with his eyes is to squint and kind of grimace a little bit. So there's activation between the eyes and there's activation in the corners of the eyes. Now that type of eye activation is consistent with anger. So anytime you kind of knit your brow together, you close your eyes a little bit or slant your eyes a little bit, that usually is indicative of anger. So you saw that show up on his face a lot while Senator Harris was speaking. She had a little different move with her eyebrows. Vice President candidate Harris would use a lot of activation in her eyebrows to really, she would shoot them up as if surprised or like almost to say, are you kidding me? She used the upward eyebrow movement a lot with the forehead, kind of like inquisitive look. She would also kind of slant her eyes a little bit and tilt her head a little bit like, really? Like almost like she doesn't believe what's being said or she's surprised at what's being said. So each candidate used their facial expressions a little bit differently, but I believe very strategically. There wasn't a lot of what I would call candid or surprise expression. These are things that they have been coached to and have practiced their responses, and to very strategically use their faces and what appears to be spontaneous facial expressions to actually send a very clear message. Both of them know that they are side by side on a split screen throughout this entire exchange. They know that people are paying as much attention to how they're reacting to what the other candidate is saying as they are to what they are actually saying when it's their time to talk. So they very strategically use those facial expressions almost as punctuators to accentuate their internal feeling around a topic or an ideology or a truth or an untruth, whatever the situation may be. Their faces are really helping to sell you, to convince you, to influence you, to either agree with them or to disagree with the other person speaking throughout the entire debate time. So it's no accident what's showing up on their faces. I watched the entire thing. I don't think either one of them were taken by any amount of surprise at what the other candidate was presenting during that debate. But it is interesting to watch the fine dynamics of how they're strategically performing, both how they're answering the questions proactively and also how they're actively responding to the answers of the other candidate. So if you want to know more about maybe not so much what they're saying, but what they're feeling. Watch for the facial expressions. Watch for these interesting dynamics. They really do give you a much deeper insight into the point of view and to the beliefs of each candidate. If you want to know more tips like this, I have a course just for you. I actually have the How to Read People Like a Pro course available, where you can learn how to read not only facial expressions, but the whole spectrum of body language. Super helpful for debates and really helpful just for everyday life. So you can find the link to that below this video or in the link in my bio. And if you like to know things, these insider informations about how people are always telling the truth with their faces and their bodies, like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it out with other people that are interested in learning more about how to read people. We'll keep watching the debates. You keep letting me know what you see.